this around deportations. Since sharing my story very publicly in an essay in the New York Times some 13 years ago, the question I get asked the most all over the country from Americans of all backgrounds is, why don't you just get legal? Why don't you just fix this thing? This thing.
You got your papers?
What if I told you I didn't?
Well, then you need to get your ass on then. That's what I'd say.
Are you in line? You have your
But sir, there's no line. I was brought here when I was 12. I didn't know. I didn't have papers since I was 16. My grandparents, who are American citizens, didn't tell me. So I've been here.
Yeah.
I've been paying taxes since I was 18. If you're here who's undocumented, there's no way for you to get in the process.
Therefore, go to Mexico. You would be.
I'm Filipino. Lying about being a United States citizen, falsely claiming citizenship, is considered one of the highest offenses under immigration law. I didn't know that when I was 19 years old, about to graduate from Mountain View High School, desperate to get a job, to make a living, to make something out of myself. So to get a job as a copy boy, answering the phones, delivering faxes and mail to staff, considered...
Okay. This absolutely infuriates me as a legal immigrant, as a third generation of Armenian that had survived ethnic cleansing. My grandfather was a child survivor of the Armenian genocide of 1915. And my mom and I, we were survivors of the Armenian Massacre of 1990, Baku, Azerbaijan. And for this man to say that there is no line is absolutely infuriating. I cannot describe the feeling that I feel. It's an absolute betrayal. Absolute betrayal on the part of American government. And I have a very special, as a survivor of the Soviet Union regime, I have a very special relationship with America, because the America spent 70 years shaking and investing a lot of money, tons of money, into breaking down of Soviet Union. So it's not just I'm a survivor of ethnic cleansing, I'm also a survivor of the fall of this empire that was initiated and instigated by the United States of America. So I was left without a country in every possible way. And this intimate relationship that I have with America that said, resist communism, we have a better way of living, makes me feel that the country that has promised me to have a better way, in case I will be, because if I'm resisting this regime, the communist regime, I will be losing my home. And so the home will be replaced in America with the promise that they will provide a better life, a better setting. Okay? And should that's why for all these years it's just so emotionally overwhelming that it's hard to keep track the timeline, because it's so emotional, and especially for me as a woman to express all those emotions and stay factual. I tried my best to stay factual. I would start with 1988, the massacre of Armenians in Sumgait, Azerbaijan, which gave us an idea that we will be next. We lived in the capital city of Baku, Azerbaijan, and the massacre took place in the Sumgait, which is a nearby city. And so the Armenians were massacred there, and we knew that we will be next sooner or later, because this is bad. And my brother had this premonition even before the Sumgait massacre. Before 1988, he was insistent on my mom finding a way to petition U.S. Embassy in Moscow. We didn't have a functional embassy in Azerbaijan. It was just like a subsidiary that was only catered to American citizens who were in Azerbaijan. But the main embassy that could decide immigration and all that was in Moscow, Russia. And so my brother was insistent for my mom to find a way. All those papers needed to be translated. And it was just like, that's from another planet for us to be translated in English and all that. There was no agencies or anything at the time. You had to find an individual person to translate those papers and pay pretty decent amount of money, which my mom didn't have, working a minimum wage job. After the communists robbed her family of her grandfather's factory, her other grandfather's shoemaking business, so we were robbed into poverty. And since my mom was a honest person, straight person, she did not join any of the communist party's membership. So she was doomed to work a minimum wage job. And since my mom and my brother had a very special relationship, he was her firstborn, and he was the authority for her. And she said, okay, he's insistent. So she found a way to get the application, found a way to translate it, submitted to the embassy. It went all the way to DC, Washington, DC, from Baku, Azerbaijan of 1987 or so, to Washington, D.C., America, United States of America, from Soviet Union into capital of America. We didn't even think that it was going to go through or anything. It was just, throwing a fishing line into this huge ocean and not even hoping not anything going to come back. Well, the letter did come back. To our surprise, from Washington, D.C., I still have that letter, and it says, sorry to inform you, your letter, your application was logged in. But sorry to inform you, you did not qualify for the categories that let you in. And then I believe there was about 5 or so categories that would let you, give you a right to come to America and seek asylum. One of them was, you were not prosecuted evangelical Christian. That's, I remember clearly. Other categories, I'm not sure. One was that you need to have a relative who is a permanent resident or a citizen of America, which we didn't have at the time. And it was said something about, I believe, about 20-year long line. So you would have to, your application was logged in, and the wait time is about 20 years. And so that was that. Then the January 1990 comes along. Our family survives the massacre. My brother snatches us from the angry mob. We spend time in hiding while the Soviet forces were actually at the city, at the edges of the city, and they did not enter because Gorbachev is a freaking sellout who God will judge. He's already on the other side. And they allowed 7 days and 7 nights of lawlessness to take place in Baku, where Armenians were slaughtered. There was nobody to come to their rescue. Children, elderly, women. It was just absolute horror nightmare. And it's available online on YouTube right now to see the crimes that have been committed against humanity during those days. My brother took us from the angry mob and hid us at his friends. I don't know, I was 11 years old at the time. I don't know how long we spent there, but it could not be in more than a month. All I know is my timeline goes by um, tanks, Soviet tanks are still being in the city, and those poor young Russian boys who was forced to see this horror of ethnic cleansing. They were warming up. That's what I remember on the way out of Baku in the car where my brother was smuggling us. If they would have found out my mom is Armenian and we are half Armenians, they would have massacred us right there on the side of the road. And living in the city, I remember looking at the young guys trying to warm up. I remember there was a tanks. They were next to tanks making a bonfire on the asphalt on the side of the highway and warming up their hands. That's what I remember. So the timeline would be that the Soviet troops were still in the city. And why is it important, this timeline? Is because when we ran and we crossed into Dagestan, into Russian Federation, from there on the train, God knows how long, all I remember, it was extremely cold. We had very poor clothing on. Clothing is not suitable for the Russian winter, absolutely not suitable. And we made it, how many days we were in this extremely cold train, made it to Moscow, navigated to the embassy, and I remember it was about 4 o'clock. It was about to be getting the sunset. We made it to embassy in Moscow. They didn't even let us in, of course. It's like a fortress. And at the door, security, we said we're refugees from Baku. We seeking asylum. And the security, whoever was, the passed a note there, and then the answer came back from inside. The wave of refugees from your region is over. And it was a sentence right there. The sentence to go back to hell again, which we eventually did. We spent in Moscow area where my uncle lived there 6 months. We were absolutely discriminated. We're called blacks. I can I'm probably gonna get blocked if I would be saying the derogatory words that they were telling towards me and my mom. We were forever blacks in there. There's not enough space for ourselves, and you over here all looking for handouts or whatnot, claiming you're refugees. Okay, all I can say is we did not stay in Russia for a good reason, and we're Russian speaking. That's how much discrimination was towards us. And we had no place to go but to return, sneak back into Baku, and spend 10 years under lock, key and key. I was 11 years old. I was not allowed to finish elementary school. At 11 years old, I was locked up along with my mom. And my brother was the only one to provide for us. Um, to say that there is no line, all I can say is, forgive them, Father, for they don't know what they're doing. For this man, he's a Filipino. He has Philippines. There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with Philippines. Americans retire in Philippines and they're very happy there. You having your country here, claiming that administration is wrong, claiming that somebody here is wrong. Yes, they were wrong. For the last 30 years, they were wrong. They were wrong when they denied this poor mother, my single mother, with 3 children, begging at the door of an embassy, calling for mercy, knowing that the massacre is happening, knowing that the things are coming, and for America to deny us entry, yet open the doors to everyone, every of the sharp elbows to come into this country for the last 30 years. People who had their home, have their country to this day. They have their country. If America were to fall, all these people in clear conscience, they will just move back to Mexico, Pakistan, India, Philippines. They will not stick around in here. They will not. Because at the end of the day, they have their home. And many of the illegals that are here, that have been here 30, 40 years, getting all the benefits and legalizing themselves, even though they're not qualified to be legal here. They're not. According to the letter that we received, they don't qualify for any of the categories listed there. So if we were denied and made to go through a massacre, made to go through hell on earth because we were not qualified, how can you allow people who still have their land and nothing wrong with it, they're coming over here for financial security, that you're letting them in and you're letting them get it's nothing but betrayal. I feel betrayed by United States government. I feel betrayed because it was let in only for the rich to get richer, for the middle class to have a cheap labor, where people like me, like my family right now, Artzakh, which is Nagorno-Karabakh, another name for it, the land between Armenia and Azerbaijan, historically Armenian land, with predominantly Armenians living in there. 100,000 people have been ethnically cleansed out of their land again, just recently. And the land has been taken over by this Ottoman Empire again. And none of these people, I don't hear of any of them coming over here for shelter. They have no land. They have Armenians, not their land. Artsakh was the autonomous republic, and they took their land. They massacred them out of there, and they have no place to go. So for you, sir, you are Filipino. You have a beautiful country of Philippines. You, sir, are blessed. You can always go back and you'll be honored in there, and you will be called sir, and you will be called a citizen of Philippines, and you will be able to claim your land and say, I am a citizen and I should have all the protections of a citizen of the Philippines. You, sir, are blessed. You don't even know what it is to live without a country. So please, I wish for all to see the truth, the ugly truth that nobody wants to see. Everyone's is with their agenda and they're crying. And it's always like that. The victims, for some reason, are always the last to cry. I don't know what it is. The true victims are always the last to cry, because I think when we survive the massacre, something's happening to us psychologically, where we just don't want to talk about it. We don't want to bring it up. We don't want to disturb those memories. I don't know. No, I don't think I think I'm lying. I don't think it's even that. I think it's just being so overwhelmed by the memories of the horrors that you survived, that it blocks your speech. When you try to talk about it, it blocks your speech, and you get overwhelmed, and you just shut it down, and you move on with another day, with another day, with another day. So this is about a million time of my attempt to make the video talking about it, because I have erased about a million of them ever since I came to this country, trying to talk about it, because it just gets too overwhelming to talk about. So every time you have these people say it, it's like, dude, you're not really a victim. You are not. You, sir, you are blessed that you were here since you were 12 and had opportunity to go to American school and learn perfect English. If you were to return to Philippines, you would be a king. With the knowledge of English, you can open your own school teaching, just simply teaching English. I'm not even talking about teaching journalism or writing. Apparently, you are good at it since you've been writing the articles. So be thankful for the chance that you received here to get the education that would not be available for you back in Philippines. But is that a reason to stay here? Is that a reason to invade this country before others? Because if you pushing yourself, just imagine you standing in the store and there's a line and you just ran up and jammed somebody in the throat and you caught in line and getting yourself into this mall, for whatever sale was going on. You invading that place. You just violated people in line and you invaded. Yes, you don't want to see yourself as such, but if you back up and look at everybody's cases who are standing in line to come to America, and you making it before because your parents were too aggressive at coming over here, it's that. And I still don't know, you're telling me your grandparents are citizens based on what merit? If they served in U.S. military, yes. But what was their merit on coming here? Because it's not based on the letter that we received. There are categories you gotta fall into to be here legally and to stay here. It's just fair and square. If you have your country, you should not be just out of the whim becoming legal elsewhere. Just because you want it, just because you want